to Tru Conversations with the Soul True Network. And I'm so excited to be talking with Kardia Dunah. Did I say your name right?
Yes, you did. Kardia Dunah.
Awesome. So I just love it when we have experiences, because oftentimes during our self-care weekend, I have the opportunity to meet new women, and we develop a relationship and we find out that we have overlapping circles, and then we end up working together in some way, shape, or form. So I love it when that happens. It's in alignment with rules of engagement and how we're always navigating those overlapping circles. And my little rule of thumb is when I run into people or we have points of connection, usually my magic number is 3. Then I'm like, okay, we're supposed to do something together. So Kardia and I, do you want to share when we met?
So I remember us meeting at your self-care weekend that you host every year. And it was through a mutual friend, my boss, and your friend, who we were able to connect. And she told me about the event. I was really excited to go. I remember being like the youngest one there, so I was a little scared and nervous, but it was just such a great place to gain so much knowledge and learn from so many women who looked like me. So I remember something that resonated when I had met you was your fitness journey and how that's fluctuated over the years, and that was something that I experienced through my own personal life. So I remember you sharing that with me and what that looks like and how you were able to get back on track, and it was all around very inspirational for me.
Absolutely. And I think grateful that you as a young person spoke up during self-care weekend, because I'm personally always concerned about making sure the messaging is, relatable to all generations. So having young people, my daughter's age, young professionals like yourself, as well as seasoned women, and then our older, wiser counselors in our communities, want to make sure your voice is heard. And I think one of the things that you brought up, I think in one of the questions, was how to navigate it all. As someone, I'm always refer to younger people as eagles. My leaders who are emerging, they're aggressively, attacking their careers and trying to do all the things, but you wanted to talk about balance and navigating that. So what was that experience like for you, and how do you feel about how you're navigating right now today?
It's a lot better than it was when we had first met, and I think that self-care weekend allowed me to take a step back and reflect on what I needed to do to take care of myself so that I can continue pursuing the goals that I had in life. So that weekend was kind of like a reset for me. I think now I'm still, working through my own model that I've created to create that energy or make sure that I am navigating these different spaces in the best way that I possibly can, but that just requires me taking care of myself first. And I think that's what that weekend really emphasized for me. And so just taking it day by day.
Absolutely. And so a couple of things that struck me about you, as everyone can see, she's very physically fit. And I'm always, I take an assessment of myself physically to decide what do I need in this season of my life to take my health to the next level. And I was at that point where, different phases of my life, I have worked with personal trainers. I'm like, okay, I think this is my sign that I need to get back to that aspect. I do a detox every January, and sometimes throughout the year. So I knew at the heel of this, or in the midst of this particular detox in January, I really wanted to engage in personal training and physical fitness leading into the summer. So that kind of worked out for us as you are evolving your role and your work in that space as well. So in terms of that, struck me, and we connected on that level, but then you have a Liberian background, which really lends itself to maybe some of the work ethic and pressures. I don't know if that would be a good word to use.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
And how you are, trying to embrace your heritage, but not allow maybe some of the pressures that come with that, your culture, your cultural upbringing, and how you are, balancing both worlds.
Yeah, absolutely. My background plays a huge role into some of the challenges that I've faced throughout my life. My parents were born and raised in Liberia. My older siblings were also born there. I was born here in America, but growing up in an African household in a American community was very difficult, and learning how to balance that or navigate that was really tough. I think in terms of identity, what I felt like I was supposed to do or called to do, it was just constantly comparing myself to what my parents told me or what my culture would recommend versus what I was hearing in school or church. But something that really, as I reflect back on life, stood out to me was my parents' work ethic, with them coming here to escape a civil war and provide an opportunity for us that they didn't get to have. They worked my entire life, so they had about 2 or 3 jobs pretty much my entire life,
Right.
and never really saw them rest. It was very rare that they had a day off. And so a lot of times that's what I thought my life needed to look like. And I think as I got older and with going to grad school, college and then grad school, I just started to become drained, but it was very hard for me to take a step back or to stop doing as much because that was what I was shown throughout my life. And it makes sense for them, they didn't really know anything different besides you have to work to make money to give my kids this opportunity. And although they had some of these different areas of their life fulfilled, like their spiritual and even their social health, throughout most of my life, I could definitely tell that they were tired and maybe weren't able to show up in other ways for us.
Right. And then you incurred a losses at a young age. Can you talk about that? And was that part of your epiphany?
Yeah, absolutely. So my dad had actually passed away about a week before I graduated from grad school, so almost 2 years ago now. And he was great man. He honestly, I have a lot of similar traits in him, and in terms of just being a go-getter and going after what I envisioned for my life. But that was it was the hardest thing I've experienced in my life, and I hadn't prior to that experienced a loss as great, but my mental health really took a toll. And it's interesting in this field, I had just finished up my master's in clinical counseling, and I have all this knowledge of what you're supposed to do when you're feeling depressed or anxious, or you've experienced a loss, what the grieving process looked like, but it was very difficult to apply that to my own life. So that was another huge part of my epiphany, basically, of my life is all over the place. I'm tired, I'm drained, I'm working 3 jobs, I'm about to start my career, I'm about to move, all of these things. My mom is in Chicago, so I was like, how do I navigate that with being so far away from her? So it's just a very confusing time of my life, in another area where it was hard to slow down again because I was just so wired to keep going, keep pushing, act like everything's okay, when really internally I was grieving or neglecting grief, honestly, some of those feelings that come along with it. So that all played a role in how, once again, this model came about with being holistically fit, how important it is to take care of our emotional health when it comes to what we go through in life, those unexpected changes, the moves, even the exciting things that happen. Yeah.
And then on top of that, you were a track athlete while you were in school.
Yes.
So you had to learn also how to fit in physically, taking care of yourself. Was that a good thing, or how did that translate then and now in your life?
Yeah. So I ran track for 13 years. And then in grad school, I coached track while I was going to grad school. So fitness and physical activity has been a huge part of my life as well. And it's been such a great thing to have. I think one of the hardest transitions that I had experienced in terms of physical health was from having a set workout routine. I knew I was working out Monday through Friday or Saturday sometimes. I had a weekly meet pretty much throughout my entire track career. And once that ended, it was really difficult for me to get back into a routine of taking care of my physical health, both in terms of movement, but also in terms of fueling my body and being mindful of what I ate. So that transition from, even when I coached track, what was great was I was around athletes, and I would even jump into workouts sometimes and try to race some of my athletes, which didn't work out too well all the time, but it was great to keep me in the headspace of movement is important and valuable. But once I was done with that, around the same time that my dad passed away, it shifted my identity. And I was kind of like, who am I without track, without my dad in my life, without this regiment where I worked so much from day to day. And one of the interesting things about graduating and going into my career field, I had so much more time than I actually ever had before, where I was working like a set 40 hours a week, and I didn't have to work on the weekends. I had worked pretty much every weekend since I was 16. Right. So I just had all this extra time, didn't know how to navigate it, but I knew that I wasn't feeling myself, and it was because I wasn't taking care of these areas of my life.
Gotcha. Now, how does faith play a role in, the pressure that you're feeling, juggling all the different aspects of your life and trying to figure out, how do you take all these different experiences and parlay it into a manageable life that's rewarding and fulfilling and feel harmonized or balanced?
Yeah, and how faith plays a role in that. I think my faith journey has been a roller coaster as well, and going to both a Christian undergraduate school and graduate school, faith and God was something that I was always exposed to. Also, my family being, my dad was a pastor actually and a teacher as well, so I grew up with devotions weekly and got to hear him preach a lot of times too, so it was always something that was a part of my life, but I didn't feel like I had really taken it on my own, or I hadn't made my faith my own until maybe undergrad. And then grad school was another shaky period where I didn't have that community, either socially or a faith community. So I kind of like fell away there. But once again, my dad passing away activated that part of me, like, God, why is this happening to me? And I think I asked myself a question is, am I able to still live a fulfilled life even with this big loss that I've experienced? And the answer is yes, but it took a long time to learn that or feel that sense from God. I think through finding community recently in church and going to a Bible-believing church where there's great teaching, I've been able to reconnect with God in a way that's personal, and it doesn't feel like as strained as it did when all of these challenges happened. But because even when I think back on my childhood, there were a lot of moments where I felt distant from God. So faith becoming a stronger area of my life, or something that I was able to refocus on, I think has given me the foundation to give me the strength to do these other things that I know are also going to fill my cup.
Gotcha. And I know in our conversations you talked about, you kind of started to, in terms of taking all these experiences and finding balance and harmony and figuring out how they all culminate to help you have a fulfilled, meaningful life that feels rewarding, that you came up with 4 pillars for your life. And that's your mental health, your physical health, your spirituality, and your social well-being. So why do you think that all of these need to work together? And, can you share with anyone watching how you practice them throughout your life? Yeah,
I think I realized they all work together when I tried to operate off of just one, maybe. Reflecting back, I think with having the physical side of things kind of taken care of throughout high school, college, and post-college, was easy to, I think, not have to think about it. Also, to when it came to my spiritual life, that was also something that was a given throughout my life, where we went to church every Sunday. Both my college experiences were at a faith-based university, and I didn't really have to think about it either then. Social life, I'm a very sociable person, so I'm able to make connections everywhere I go. I think I've learned that there are different types of connections that you can make that can make you either drained or feel more filled. And my mental health, as I've kind of shared before, has fluctuated through the years, but not being able to really process, I think, or having a hard time processing some of the big changes was, I don't know, all of those areas at some point at some point in my life were naturally being filled.
Gotcha.
And then once I hit a certain point in life, they all needed to be attended to in some way, shape, or form. And I think the move to North Carolina and Charlotte area had really challenged me in that way, and trying to pick up the pieces like this. When I look back at college, like that was probably the happiest or the most joyous I had felt. I was like, what was going on in my life that allowed me to feel that way? And it was my community that I had, my roommates, the devotional groups that I was in, the women's group I was able to lead, the running track, and that naturally filled my mental space because I was taking care of myself and being around people who also were intentional with me, and I could be intentional with them.
Okay. And did that experience happen in undergrad or grad school?
It happened in, I would say undergrad was when it was when I really felt that fulfillment. Grad school was very challenging because of the move, the nature of grad school, the balancing 4 jobs throughout grad school. So I didn't have much time to focus on these areas. So undergrad was the last time I had really felt that fulfillment, and then kind of became
So what would you say, because I know currently you work for Brown Clinical Services and you counsel families, and in hindsight, just utilizing your own experiences, sometimes we just get in the midst of, we're doing all the things, and I think especially Black women that I am in community with, we just get it done, and we push through. So what signs in hindsight, and maybe through your professional practice, what are the signs that we need to look for to help us know that we need to step back, we need to reset?
I think, these signs may look different for everyone, but some of the symptoms I encounter in my work a lot of the times are if you are feeling more drained, or you get 8 hours of sleep, but you're still feeling very tired or fatigued during the day. If your mind is racing, your thoughts are all over the place, you can't seem to concentrate or focus, it's hard for you to feel motivated to do things that you once felt motivated to do before. Like, for example, me, I wasn't going to the gym for a period after I had graduated, and that was so strange for me because I was so used to being intentional about that, but I noticed when my motivation lacked in that, something was going on, something deeper was going on for me. So I think looking at, if you're able to reflect and sit back and say, what has maybe felt different, or what has maybe felt off compared to maybe some healthier times that I've felt, or when I felt most myself. I think we can all really reflect and ask ourselves, when did I really feel like the best version of myself, or my healthiest version of myself? But sometimes we don't sit and do that, and I think that's when we neglect, or those things what we're experiencing in life starts to pile up to then create this unhealthy version of ourselves where we're always tired, we're always just pushing through to another day, or we're always just looking forward to bedtime where we can sleep, but then we aren't feeling well rested. So those are some of the symptoms that I think we all experience when we are constantly on the go. We're constantly pushing through because we need to or we have to. I think another area for me that actually stood out was my social battery changing. As someone who, I love connection and I love meeting other people, being with other people, when I realized that I did not want to, when I took the weekends to just like be by myself and sleep, that's when I realized something deeper was going on, as well as not wanting to be around community when that's something that I value. I know when I reflect that I value, but I wasn't actively pursuing.
Absolutely. And I know just in our conversations, because sometimes even in planning self-care weekend, I wonder, do women have enough outlets and opportunities to take care of themselves? Because it seems to be a buzzword, a trend word. So I just wonder about the need sometimes. But I know personally, I practice a sabbatical that has been evolving. It started out just taking some time to unplug, at home, just cutting off the phone and not being so responsive to folks. Then it turned into, one weekend a month where I just spent some time with myself, and then it evolved into, maybe taking a couple of weeks to go away, when I realized that it is very difficult to unplug from everything and everyone. And I, started then exploring with going out of the country. And so it's been an evolution of realizing that I need time for myself. And I've looked at a variety of ways to get that done. Last summer being kind of the best, to have the longest period of time just really focusing on myself. And I do that in the summer, and then for me, the first weekend of November, which I just then open it up to everyone. So let's come together and be each other's guide on how to assess where we are in our lives. And I, constantly encourage the women, this is your fire drill. This is your time to test your family, your work, everyone around you, to say, if I were to land in a hospital and you did not have access to me for a period of time, do you know what to do? So I encourage women to do that for the weekend, to take 3 days, give yourself the treat of the weekend, unplug, tell your family to figure it out, take off all the hats. And I still find it, because it's the same time every year. So I tell folks, plan for it. You got a whole, 11 months to plan for this weekend. But still yet, I have women come in, running late, being rushed. I got to run and pick up the kids or do this with the kids. They still don't give themselves the benefit of that full weekend to just do the things. And, family trips and couple trips, they're all great. But I still feel like you're always still focusing on someone else. The family trips, you're still cleaning up behind people or making sure people are happy and planning the things. Even in the couple trips, depends on, if you have a partner that does all the planning and literally lets you, be taken care of. But to just be with self for just a period of time, so you can pick up on the signals that you just talked about. How's this year been? Am I accomplished the things I wanted to accomplish? Did I unplug my social? Has my social life changed? Is it for the good or for the better? To just really go through the checklist to make sure we're okay. So you have just reinforced, I think, that I will keep trying to gather women for that reason. But I wonder, in terms of, did you know, because right now you are a mental health professional, you do life coaching, and you do personal training. At what point did you know that was your journey, or did you kind of stumble into these things as you had your life experiences?
I think a little bit of both. I think I always knew I wanted to help other people in a way that they felt heard and understood. I think that's something that I personally wanted to experience for a lot of my life, but didn't really experience. So in a way, it was being there for other people when I didn't really experience that. That kind of drove the mental health professional side of things. I also, when it comes to physical health, once again, running track and being a part of a lot of these fitness spaces grew that passion in me naturally to be involved with helping other people get in shape or feel confident within themselves. I think that was something I probably stumbled across throughout time with being a track coach. And then after graduating, I think I've always looked like a track athlete. Right. So to this day, people ask me if I run track or if I'm in a sport. And I'm very thankful for these genes because it definitely helps keep me in shape. But I think, too, it's helped me feel very accomplished or personally accomplished or satisfied when other people are able to see that I take care of myself. And so I think that kind of has gone my personal experience. I feel a lot better when I work out, when I'm intentional about what I eat and drinking enough water, making sure I get sleep. I know I feel a lot better when I do that. And then for other people to notice that I'm, making clean food choices, what I'm making for lunch, that I'm always drinking water. Those things are kind of reinforcement to my brain to be like, okay, these things are healthy things to be doing. And the fact that other people see you doing that and will point it out, it was really encouraging for me to
incorporate it into your work.
Exactly. Yeah. So a lot of it was my personal experience throughout life. I think that shaped these different things that I've become passionate about. And I do think I'm just naturally passionate about helping people live their best life, really, their most fulfilling life.
Wonderful. And you kind of reinforce, there's a concept that I usually take people through where they're just kind of feeling all over the place and they're trying to navigate, their career choices. And, sometimes the things that we're passionate about doesn't pay well, but it makes us feel very fulfilled. So, I often take people through what I call a 4-quadrant life, and it sounds like you kind of done that and figured that out with your passions. As there is one quadrant, which is the work that we need to do to pay the bills, and you have to be very strategic about that. Whether you're a business owner or you work for someone else, there needs to be a set designated time that you dedicate to making sure that you get the revenue to have the lifestyle that you want. But then there is a quadrant where you can put the meaningful work, the work that, just makes your heart sing, is your gift to the world, but you may not get paid for it. So maybe through volunteer work or maybe donated services, or maybe that you don't get paid well for it. It's not what you want to depend on to pay the bills, but you're willing to do that low revenue work for the greater fulfillment. You put that in that quadrant and assign an amount of time to it. Then there are the moments that, what I call just moments. They don't have anything assigned to it. It just makes you feel good. It makes you laugh. All the things that give you joy and peace, and just there's no measurement assigned to it. And then there are the musts. There are things that you just have to do. We have to bathe. We have to drive. Hopefully, your spiritual life is a part of, a must for you, as well as your physical health part. So usually when I can help people compartmentalize those things, they find it a little bit easier to navigate through life. And it sounds like you found that. Yeah. Would that be accurate to say?
I absolutely think so. And that's something that you've mentioned in a couple different spaces that we've been in together, that the 4 quadrants and how these are necessities. Some of the things, I have to work. I have to right. I have to go into the office, and it's something that I love to do. But I realized that I was oftentimes neglecting some of these other areas that filled me up. And that model, I think, has helped me recenter a lot of times. When it's the work week, Monday through Friday, I'm focused on the work that pays the bills. But I think that model has given me permission to use the weekends for these other areas, or the morning times during the week for these other areas, allowing myself to maybe go in a little bit later if I need to, if that means that I'm getting a good workout in the morning. I think overall that model connects well with the concept of being holistically fit, because it's making sure that you're doing what you need to fill these different areas of your life, and not neglect the areas of the life that fill you. Joy. Yeah, bring you joy, exactly.
So those who, I know you feel like, mental health is a very important part of life. So some people either have not embraced the concept yet, just because maybe culturally how they were brought up, or maybe they have the resources or access. So in those cases, do you have recommendations for people just in terms of maybe some micro practices that they can apply daily, or creative ways to get access to counseling services?
Absolutely. I think mental health is something that still, has some stigma around it for women and men. I think it's something that it's interesting because it's something we all experience, or something that we all have, our emotions and how we navigate life with our emotions, but it's seeking mental health services isn't always a priority. I think that was something I culturally experienced as well, where, growing up in a African household and then also a very faith-driven household, it was kind of like pray away, pray away your negative thoughts or your depression, and for a young girl, that's very discouraging because it's like, I'm trying, but it's not working. I'm not feeling confident. I'm not feeling better. But I think as I grew up, I should actually say, in the work that I do, the way that I offer services or give people insight on resources that are in the community are through local YMCAs, libraries as well, often offer discounts for different people depending on your income. Depending on, whether or not you are living alone or you have a family, they can kind of adjust as needed. But I think a practical strategy that I offer people is kind of getting out of their comfort zones and finding community or like-minded people or people that are encouraging. I think when we are going through a hard time, we tend to isolate and withdraw. And if we are able to be around other people that give us life, our friends, family, it can really be anyone who, especially people too who have similar interests as you as well. I think that's another thing that the library offers is like different book groups if you enjoy reading. Facebook is another great place to kind of put out there. That's one of the ways I was able to connect with young women when I moved to Charlotte was a women's 20s group, or I think it was Queens of Charlotte. And it was really cool to be able to kind of share a little bit of who I am and what kind of community I'm looking for. People commented. We were able to follow each other on Instagram and TikTok, and that was a way of me putting myself out there. So I think a practical strategy kind of looks like getting out of your comfort zone, joining spaces that you either had previously enjoyed and you haven't really gotten to invest in. Other strategies are grounding techniques or mindfulness practices. That's something that a lot of people don't realize are on like Spotify and Apple Music, as well as guided meditations. I use them personally when I'm feeling anxious. It's like just type in meditation for anxiety, and it's got a 10-minute clip that you can put your headphones on, listen to. Often requires deep breathing and visualization in a lot of ways too, and those are ways that you can invest in your mental health without needing to find a professional. And then I feel like professional services, those can be more challenging to find. I think that requires, for example, like Rock Hill is a place where, because that's where I work, I have connections that I can give my clients of counselors or therapists who I feel like they would connect with or who are in network with their insurance. And that's where I can also give connections to community resources. And so I think going to your local YMCA, oftentimes they have a list of different activities, people that you can go to. Your doctor can also probably give you some resources. We get a lot of referrals from doctors' offices of clients who might benefit from mental health services. I think the other thing that I want to mention here too is therapy doesn't have to be forever.
Right.
It does not have to be forever. It doesn't mean that something is wrong with you that needs to be fixed, or sometimes it's just beneficial having people to talk to during a hard time in life, and those people can give you resources. So just to kind of get rid of some of that stigma or the fear behind going to therapy. It doesn't mean that you're crazy. I think it just means you're human and you're wanting to heal, wanting to talk.
Absolutely. And the key here, and what I'm hearing, is find help.
Absolutely.
If you're not feeling 100, don't isolate. Seek help. Talk to people. And it's, and it's a great reminder, because I'm on the board of the YMCA and I'm on the board of Piedmont Medical Center. And like you said, those are key places where you can just walk in and say, hey, this is what I'm going through, this is what I'm feeling. Can you direct me to some services? And typically, like you said, the library, the YMCA, your local hospital, your physician, friends, churches, those are all places where typically you can find someone who will point you in the right direction. But also not being afraid to, if something doesn't work for you or doesn't feel good, go to the next thing.
Absolutely.
Like, it's okay to hop around until you find the thing. The same thing doesn't work the same way for everyone. And I think we need to be comfortable with, going into these spaces, giving some things a try, give it some time, but if it's not solving your problem, it's not making you feel better, definitely if it's making you feel worse, move on to the next thing. Because, we are in a place where, no matter what's going on, I even think administratively in our country, that communities typically have services, and you still have people who are still trying to get work done to help people, no matter where you go. So keep seeking, keep finding, and ask questions and talk. Speak up. Excellent. So one of the things that I also love talking to you about, because I'm the mom of a college student, and so I'm always, and I did the mother-daughter project for this reason as well, because I'm like, I only have one child, so I only have one chance to get it right. And I'm always, because I also recognize that my daughter models my behavior as well. Like, I'm Miss Independent, I'm Miss Self-Sufficient, I'm Miss I'll figure it out. And I know also what comes with that is not always asking for help, putting on the mask, that things are okay because you think you'll figure it out. So as a mom, I do get concerned about making sure that I have this good balance of letting my daughter figure things out. I don't want to be a crutch. I don't want to stunt her growth by being there too much. But at the same time, I want to look for the signs that when she is struggling, to ask for help, but not knowing that it's a good time to ask for help. It's kind of like, to me, it's like double dutch. Do I jump in now? Do I wait? So I'm always seeking, observing, and I know that through talking with you that you deal with families in that way. So I want you to share a little bit about some of the techniques that you share with parents about how to navigate their relationships with their children a little bit more effectively.
Yeah, absolutely. In my work with family, I was a family-based therapist, specifically before working with Brown Clinical Services and doing more individual counseling. So I worked with families with kids between 5 years old and 18 years old. And something across the board that we helped parents understand are developmentally appropriate behaviors that kids engage in. Your kids aren't going to be perfect. They go through stages of navigating peer relationships and wanting to fit in or find out who they are. So that naturally maybe comes with some pushback at home because their goal, for example, is to fit in, or their primary priority for a lot of these kids are to figure out who they are and what they enjoy and what they want to pursue later on in life. I think what I've noticed is parents putting very high expectations on their kids because they're not wanting to either have them make the same mistake they did. Culturally, I think for me, what I saw was my parents were wanting us to take full advantage of the opportunity we had here, so we couldn't do any of these other things, and there was frustration there for me. And so being mindful of the natural developmental stages that you had to go through. If you are able to, think back to your childhood and ask yourself, like, where would I have appreciated more freedom, or where would I have appreciated more listening rather than lecturing? And so I think across the board, developmental stages and understanding that. I think another one is oftentimes kids and teens just want a connection with their parent or their caregiver, and that looks like listening to understand versus listening to respond is one thing that I teach parents. There's a difference when your child comes to you for something and you want to give them advice, you want to tell them that, oh, they probably shouldn't have done this way, when really all they need for you to say is, wow, that's hard, and you can have those conversations later. It's about timing, I believe too, but knowing when to take advantage of those opportunities that you have to connect with them, maybe share something similar you went through in your life, to help both of you know that you're both human. This is both your first time going through life. And I think as parents sometimes, what I've seen is there's a authoritative aspect of parenting that they feel like they need to have to maintain respect, when that can sometimes push the child away, because it's all about what I have to do, what I shouldn't be doing, instead of how are you, how was your day, how can I better support you.
Right. And it's funny because I know I had an experience. I listened to this counselor who also was a minister, and she talked about that if we don't let our emotions out, that we will implode, and it'll show up in a lot of different ways. And I think I always grew up, because I was very, emotional, and I can be watching the news and just start crying, and so my family was always, kind of saying toughen up, stop crying so much, calling you a crybaby, things of that nature. I mean, and not in a mean way, but just teaching you how to, navigate the world. It was all from a good intention, but I also think that I took away from that it wasn't okay to show emotion. So then when I saw that my daughter was, emotional, I saw too where, her dad's, in the military. I grew up, being told, kind of toughen up a little bit, you're kind of soft. But then also seeing her get emotional about things that I didn't think, was important. Like if her dad, told her go clean the kitchen, and then if she was frustrated because she wanted to do something else, she was just crying. I'm like, why are you crying? That's not something to cry about. And then, but then I learned from listening to this mental health professional that anyone having an emotional overload that leads to tears, like it's okay, like let them have that experience, because if they don't let it out, no matter whether you can relate to it, think it's good or bad or soft or whatever definition you give to it, it's their emotional overload, and they have to be able to let that out in whatever way they see fit. So that was a shift for me. And I remember her being upset because the place we were trying to go ended up being closed, and she really wanted to have that experience. And she started crying. I'm like, I know that's disappointing. I'm gonna cry with you. So it's just those. It's little, just those shifts, and just it's not a major thing, but just learning that tactic of not attacking or making someone feel bad about their emotion is huge.
Yeah.
So,
And even not just like fixing too right away as well. I think it's when you're saying that you were able to be sad with her, like, man, this is hard. Like, that's an important aspect, because I think you're almost able to bond over that moment of emotional distress.
Right.
And that's a bonding experience. And it reminds her that you're also human, and you also care about things that she cares about.
Exactly. Yeah. And to your point, I was like, okay, so what do we do now? I put the ball back in the court to say, I don't have all the answers.
Right.
So we can figure this out together. So that was huge. And then there was something even that she experienced in college, and I remember in some of our conversations while we're working out, you shared about, maybe not commenting on the actual experience, but sharing the mistakes that you've made as well. So I took that advice, and I did. She didn't necessarily come to me with something that I knew she was going through, but I just shared with her that I had a very similar experience. And I think the initial reaction is to want to be seen as brave and someone that's figured everything out, and give them a strategy for figuring things out, versus I shifted to, I made the same mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I did in that season. You know, you have options and opportunities to make your own choices in that season, but just know that we're all human.
Yeah.
And it was my hope that you didn't have to go through that, but you did, and I figured it out, and you will too.
Mm-hmm.
And even though she didn't like verbalize anything in response to that, I can almost feel the like exhale, you know, where maybe she was holding something in and feeling bad about it.
Right.
I think that conversation really helped her release whatever she was kind of, you know, beating herself up over.
Yeah.
So thank you
for
always sharing.
It makes my heart happy. Yeah. And the fact that you're able to apply it, you know, is, I love that. Even in the work that I do, when parents are able to practice what we talk about in session, outside of session, and their kids come back and they're like, yeah, my mom did this week. Like, that is where the real work happens. It's not just talking about it, but being able to apply it outside of where you talk about it.
Exactly, yeah. And it was something else that you brought up. I wonder, you know, when we think about little things we can do to help ourselves when we feel like we're spiraling. And you mentioned, I think in your session, sometimes you help someone knit or learn how to knit or something to
crochet.
Yeah, crochet. Can you share a little bit about that?
I love my field because I can be creative with it. And going back to what you're saying is everybody's different. Some things don't work for some people. They might work for another person. And so part of my field as both a therapist, well, all three, a therapist, a wellness coach, and a personal trainer, is I work with so many different types of people that I have to learn to be able to adjust when needed. And I have a couple younger clients who, you know, it's hard for a 10-year-old to sit and talk for an hour in a session. So I'm always trying to think of ways to make it fun and engaging. And I remember I'm a creative person also just naturally. So I've, you know, play a couple instruments and crochet and taught myself how to crochet. So I taught my clients how to crochet, and it's something that they were able to fall in love with. Their mom ended up getting them crochet materials for Christmas, which is a lot less expensive than electronics. So it's a win for her. But now she crochets when she's angry with her sister. Now she's able to do that to help regulate herself versus lashing out because it's something that happened at school. So just being able to read the client or adjust as needed. This is also like, it's usually my more creative clients that I'm able to implement some of these things with. I think let them know that therapy or calming down doesn't have to be boring. You can, that outlet can be anywhere, used anywhere.
I just think that's going to be my new gift that I'll give to young people in my life. I'm finding some crocheting tools. So
That'll save you money.
I love that. I may even do that myself. And that has become my little tool, because I know that some of what you shared in some of our conversations is because I'm always on, and I share with you that it's really hard. I'm always problem solving. I'm always thinking about things going on in our world, in our country, in our community, and I'm always thinking of strategies to help solve the problems. And like sometimes I do want my brain to just shut off, and I used to, you know, go to the glass of wine as my tool. But you know, working out and taking better care of my temple, you know, alcohol is no longer my tool of choice to help my brain shut off or wind down. So besides the sensory that are mushroom based that trigger our brains to relax, I've become a plant mom. So where I have before shunned, you know, I didn't think that I had a green thumb. I still question the color of my thumb. But I have, you know, with the losses that have happened in my family, I've gotten lots of plants, and I want to figure it out. So it's been a great journey that's become my mindfulness experiences to I've named the plants, and I talk to the plants, and I try to figure out what's going on with them. But it's not in this strategic, overwhelming mind thing. It's more, it feels more calming.
Yeah.
So that's kind of been my tool. But I think I want to give crocheting a try
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
So how can people, get in contact with you? I know you have, you're a licensed clinical therapist, as well as you do life coaching and you do personal training. So how can people reach out to you in either of those?
Yeah, so I have a couple different ways that you can reach out to me. I have a website called fitwithkardia.com, and there is my contact information. My email address is on there, and there's also a form out there. There's a form on there for you to fill out if you are wanting to seek either life coaching services or personal training services, or you can do both. I have some packages for both. When it comes to mental health, my role as a licensed professional counselor associate, I can really only meet with people in South Carolina. So you can find me through Ground Clinical Services, their website. And the difference between mental health counseling and life coaching is mental health counseling looks a lot more deeply at diagnosis and clinical or significant symptoms that impact your functioning. Whereas life coaching looks at, this is an area of my life that I want to kind of make a little bit better. Can you help me do that? Looks at, practical skills to creating a more manageable schedule, to having maybe a healthier communication style, which those are some things that a lot of times I talk about in the mental health space or as a counselor. But it's the difference is mental health counseling goes deeper and it requires certifications and schooling for that, whereas life coaching doesn't require that, and it's more surface level, I guess, in regards to how it navigates like anxiety, depression, and those are things too. If I'm working with somebody who in the life coaching space, but I feel like mental health treatment might be more appropriate with them, that's something that as a life coach we are supposed to make that distinction and then offer resources to get them the support that they need, but they can also still do life coaching.
Okay. So it's brownclinicalservices.com?
Yes.
If they're in South Carolina. And then is it Fit with Kardia?
Yes.
Can you spell that?
FITWITHKARDIA.com.
Perfect.
And then that's also how you can find me on Instagram as well, is Fit with Kardia.
Okay, wonderful. So if there's one thing that you want people to take away from just learning from you and your experiences and your journey, is there one really key thing?
I think one key thing I would love more people to know is life doesn't have to be miserable.
Yeah,
I think
you would think people would know that, but it does seem.
Yeah, because I think that we live in a society where we are, on social media, we see the lifestyle of others, there's comparison, there's unsatisfaction in our workplace, there's just all of these things that make life just not fun. And I think when it comes to the requirements of life, like we're oftentimes required to work 40 hours a week to in order to live. And I think what I'm learning is life can be fun and fulfilling and joyful and happy if we are intentional about it. So I think that's something that, I'm still learning and practicing, but overall, I think too, with everything that I've navigated in life, is knowing that we don't have to sit with some of our struggles, or we don't have to sit in the sadness or dwell in the sadness. Those are things that will naturally come. We are human beings and we react to sad things in life. But it doesn't have to keep us trapped in this cycle.
Wonderful. And as we wrap up, are there any questions that you are still trying to resolve for yourself that you have for me, our audience, and people may respond, to these conversations?
Yeah, I think as you were talking about, picking up crocheting and some of these different things that you've now instilled in your life to make sure that you take care of yourself, just getting to know you, you wear a lot of hats. And it's just so encouraging to see someone who has, a like full-time job or a primary work that you do, but then you also have the capacity to work in these other spaces and be on boards. I feel like you're on every board in Rock Hill community, but what was it for you that made you maybe realize that it was time for you to slow down? And I think also too, how do you make sure you take care of yourself while navigating all of these spaces that you do?
Absolutely. And I think primarily looking at the losses that I've experienced in life, I've always been a person that found time for self. And it started really young with my dad. He worked, every day. He had his regimen, but Saturdays he preserved for me. And before he made plans for the rest of his day or his weekend, he would wait to see, was I going to hang out with my friends? Was I going to go to my oldest sister's house and hang out with my nieces and nephews? But I always knew that I could spend time with him, whether we were watching wrestling, going for a walk. And when I did spend time with him, we only went to the movies once because he was struggling with, them cursing at in the movies, even though it was supposed to be for kids. But we would go play pool together, and it was just being with my dad was such a relaxing, calming experience. And my dad did not feel the need to fill our time together with words. Like, it was just presence. And so I think I've learned at a very young age that calming, effects can happen when you just are with yourself in quiet moments, not feeling like you have to fill every space with something or you have to be doing something all the time, playing games. And sometimes we just went to the park and sat on the bench and fed the pigeons.
Oh, yeah.
So I think having those experiences at such a young age always centered me around quiet time with myself or other people. So that's number one. I've always built that in. No matter how busy people see me doing a lot of things, I am very productive. I call it productive versus busy, because I'm always feeling like I'm getting something accomplished. Just, I think sometimes we can just run around and do a lot of stuff and the needle not move. So I'm very conscientious and intentional around blocking off time. And what I tell people, I don't know if anybody's seen that illustration where they talk about time management and they put in the big rock and the medium-sized rocks and then the small rocks and then the sand and then the water, and it's just kind of always helping you see what capacity you have, and you just have to prioritize things based on what are the big things that need to get done and where things can happen if or not. And my epiphany was that I am the big rock, that I'm always first, and then everything else gets built around my capacity. And then I identify everything on my list. I'm a list person, but whether it's a big rock, a medium rock, sand, water, everything gets prioritized in my life, put in my quadrants to make sure that I'm hitting all the centers. So I think I did the things first based on my understanding of life and navigating life and prioritizing. And that's always been an evolving system for me, is to how to prioritize and always putting myself. And by putting me first, I'm putting God first, because I'm appreciating and respecting that He is my creator, and that taking care of temple is honoring Him and respecting what He has created. So my time with God, my time with self has to be the priority, and then everything else gets worked around that. And I think because I give that respect and honor to the creator and myself, that it almost makes me more efficient and effective, because I'm not relying on myself. I don't feel like I do anything in my own strength or knowledge. It's with the time, talent, resources that I'm given by a higher power, and staying centered on that keeps me from beating myself up, getting frustrated around things. I mean, I do, but I always center myself with prioritizing, you know, why am I here? What is this really about? Making sure that, you know, it's about God, it's about me understanding the reason why he put me on this earth. And when you understand those things, I think it just helps you manage life more effectively.
Yeah.
So, and to me, the boards, the commissions, all the things, I consider that a PhD in community service that I learned from being on those boards. So whenever I have a question and I understand how something works in our society, I, you know, will accept an invitation to maybe be a part of a board that will give me deeper understanding about those things. So it just kind of makes me a quick study. Because I always take advantage of learning from all the people around me who have the PhDs or the education or the master's degrees, like being in those spaces with those people, listening, learning. That's how I become more effective and able to navigate things a little more effectively.
Yeah. In a lot of spaces, we've also talked about your passion for generational wealth. And I think as I am embarking on this journey on wellness and teaching people what wellness looks like, are there any connections you're able to make between generational wealth and generational wellness that you're able to kind of, you know, offer that insight to me?
Absolutely. To me, health is wealth, because you really can't do anything for long periods of time without being healthy. You know, you're going to wear out, tire out, be tired, be exhausted, all the things. So to me, that's the foundation of anything that you're trying to build. If your health isn't your priority and isn't solid, I feel like you're building everything else on sinking sand. So that's the connection I make between building generational wealth, building anything, health, mental, physical, all the things that you talk about is the foundation. So that has to be solid. And then I think when you're healthy, mentally, physically, emotionally, you're going to save money naturally, because you're going to save money on healthcare expenses. You're going to, if you learn how to satisfy yourself nutritionally versus calorically, you save money. And, you know, you will have longevity, you'll have more time to do more things, you'll have energy to be more productive. So I think generational wealth starts there. And then even having healthy families, because when you know how to communicate effectively, you don't go on binges, eating your way out of problems, spending your way out of problems. And then when you have good, healthy concepts of self, you may not spend money on things that you're trying to compensate for feeling bad about yourself in different ways. So I feel like all these things that we talk about are the foundation before getting to generational wealth. And then lastly, I'm really passionate about strong, healthy families, because what we'll see is that generational wealth typically follows when families are strong and healthy and working together and have good communication. Then they're going to put in practices that will help them all be on the same page with their spending habits and passing money on to the next person, being able to pull them into the plans and everyone being aware of the plans and being on the same page. All of that is a part of building generational wealth. I think we tend to focus on getting more jobs and making more money, and it's really about preserving resources, preserving self, preserving communication and family. That's the way that you don't waste money, and you put the money that you do have and you are making in good investments of self and, you know, of other things that will be a good return on that investment.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I feel like it all just blends together so naturally. How important it is to take care of your health in order to then, you know, be a healthy version as you navigate work in these other spaces. And like you're saying, kind of an example to your family as well. I think a lot of people don't realize how much your kids watch you and your habits and mimic that throughout life too. So if you're able to personally do that yourself, and then that's the lifestyle that your kids see you live, it's promoting this lifestyle that leads into generational wealth.
Absolutely. And really quickly, because you hit on this, I met with a group of about 20 10-year-olds. They're in 5th grade, and we were doing 30-minute money moves is what I call it. Trying to create cash smart kids. And when I gave them this example I gave them each $25, and I'm like, you can't buy everything. And then we walked through them making choices about how they would spend their money. And I could tell already at 10 years old what they're seeing in their families. And there were a group of kids who saved all their money and like, I don't need any of these things, and I want to invest all $25 to make more money. And then there were some that had $20 left, 15, 10. So I put them in groups. But then there were some that had no money left, zero, because they spent it all. And then there was one that was in debt. She spent $35. I'm like, but you didn't have $35. She was like, yeah, but I wanted everything. And already you can see the concepts that they are getting based on what they're seeing in their environment. That those choices and those patterns start at a very young age.
Yeah.
So to your point, we have to think about what we're mimicking and what our kids are watching, because it's going to play out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Kardia. This has been such a great conversation, and I'm glad that you, at your age, are connecting the dots. I tell folks the reason why I'm so passionate about this work is I was evolving, and I learned some things along the way, but it didn't really all come together. I was like in my mid-30s and you know, about to have my daughter before it all kind of started coming together. So I always felt like I was behind the 8 ball. And I'm like, it's not that wouldn't have been disciplined or focused or to put the things into place, but my parents didn't have excess. I mean, and I saw them when they did have excess, they did the things like buying the house and buying the cars, but you know, they weren't into investing, really not a fan of banks. So those are the things that I had to learn later on, and I started thinking if there were other people in my life that were feeding that knowledge, I would have been in a different place at an earlier stage in life. So I'm grateful to always be talking with young people like you who are figuring it out, sharing it with others, and just learning and growing and navigating and being an example for this world and helping those who come to you for your services.
Oh, thank
So
you.
Thank you for what you're doing in this world.
Oh, thank you as well. You have so much knowledge to give, knowledge and wisdom to offer, and enjoy picking your brain. I like to move quick and learn all these things as fast as I can.
Well, you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.